ESPN Sports. This is Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertsons Safeway.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Grizz Insider here on the Montana Television Network. Alongside the voice of the Grizz, Riley Corcoran, I'm Kyle Hansen, and Riley, it's the 6th straight win for the Grizzlies, and it's the week we've all been waiting for, but man, what a statement win.
Absolutely. They avoided the trap game, Kyle, and it was funny going back and looking at how the Grizzlies had done in that game before the rivalry matchup. And under Coach Hal, they're now 12-0, and the average margin of victory nearly 4 touchdowns. So this group stayed really focused throughout the course of the game. They avoided all distractions, and they really left no doubt for, again, yet another week. This team, they talk about getting better each week, and I think it was mission accomplished yet again.
I think you're right, and ultimately, too, it was kind of similar to last year, right, when they were playing Eastern Washington. It was, hey, get the big lead early, and then against Eastern Washington, it took off from there. But this game, it was like, get the big lead early, not necessarily coast, but then you can kind of start to be in control, and we can start to move on a little bit. Because Portland State's a game opponent, but, you know, the postseason isn't likely for them, so for the Grizz, they just needed to attack early, I felt.
Absolutely, and I think how they were able to do that was with the running game. And much like Eastern Washington, when Nick Osmo ran wild last year, and that's a perfect recipe and an ingredient to have when, number one, Kyle, you want to salt away a win and use that clock. Because I think in the second half, as we're going to get to, there just wasn't much action because Montana was aware of what was going on, and it was good to see a lot of people get in the game and a lot of homecomings for some Oregon players. But you're right. They were able to just kind of outpace themselves and shift the focus to next week pretty quick.
That first half, a little similar to Sac State, right? The Portland State gets a little momentum to start, and then the Grizz make sure to stomp it out pretty early. Run game, pass game, it seemed like everything was kind of flowing well, and Cliff McDowell was a big part of that.
Oh, my gosh. Again, he just continues to amaze, and not only with his legs, 3 rushing touchdowns. He had 3 in the previous 9 games. So good to see that his legs were working, but also some of the throws, Kyle. His progression as a passer has just been fun to watch, and a lot of credit to that goes to Brent Pease for coaching him up throughout the course of the year, and you're seeing it too. Even with Kaylee Iayat, quarterback development for Montana this year has been a vast improvement. It's been fun to see, and Clifton McDowell led the charge, really, offensively. You go back and forth with Gilman. He kind of had a quiet first half, and then he was the bell cow in the second half, but a wide array of weapons, and Sawyer Racanelli was someone that when his number was called, he had a career high, and he was playing pretty close to home, even though he's a Washington native.
He was one of the guys that stood out to me, you know, getting that first start in place of Aaron Fonts and not really skipping a beat, being really game right off that first drive that helped them get that momentum and, you know, kind of get his first big minutes, which is big for him because he's coming off the injury from a year ago, and I felt like this was kind of a, not necessarily a coming out party, but he got a chance to showcase what he could do.
I think so, and this, with more opportunity, he knew what to do with it. Just 6 catches the first couple of weeks, but for him, again, I think belief, much like with this Grizzly football team, they have belief, and Sawyer Racanelli now has belief that he can do it, and it was a big game for him. I was just really impressed with the focus for Montana, and we saw it, Kyle, from the broadcast booth. How about for you down on the sidelines with how Montana was focused? It was a workman's-like effort. They blocked out all the noise. What was the sense that you got down there?
It was exactly that. And, you know, been to practice earlier in the week, and you could just tell it was all focused. It's such a weird place to be in, right, where you're coming off a top 10 game. Here's this game against Portland State, who, again, is a good opponent with good players, but then it's the big one the week after. And it doesn't matter who it is, but when the Cats are next, it's just going to be that atmosphere and feeling. And I thought they did a great job with that. It felt like that on the sideline. Even right out of the gates, it was like they allowed that field goal to start the game, and it still felt like, I think Montana's going to come back and get this done.
I absolutely think so. And first road game in 28 days. We were talking about how long it had been since Montana had been at home. That was on the flip side for the Grizz. So going on the road, call it what it is, kind of a dead atmosphere out there. At least there was only Grizz fans that I heard, at least during the course of the game. But it was a bit unique out there, but they were able to avoid all that.
They were able to block out all the noise. Defense came up big late, and now here we are for all the Wild Week.
Everything we could ask for with the top 5 matchup. Can't wait to dive in the next half hour.
Absolutely. Going to be a terrific show to prime you for the Brawl of the Wild coming up. And up next, Riley is going to catch up with Coach Hal to recap the game against Portland State.
Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertsons Safeway.
Welcome back to the Grizz Insider. Montana wins their 6th consecutive game, and they set up a conference championship battle this week. Happy to be joined by head coach Bobby Houck. Before we dive into this week, Coach, plenty to recap from the win at Portland State, and we were just talking about it. We talked about it on the plane ride home last night, and even more so today. Very reminiscent of your game against Sacramento State, where you guys, again, were able to wear down your opponent and turned out to be a dominating blowout win.
It was a good win. You know, the Week 10 game is always a concern to me, as you and I have spoken numerous times. But our guys went and took that game, and I was really proud of the effort by our assistant coaches and our players. I mean, they just kind of locked in on it. And, you know, there's some redundancy to that, but that's a good redundancy. If we can continue to do that, we'll be hard to beat.
Well, Coach, at 12-0 now in the game before the rivalry matchup, is there a message that is said to the team? Is it just more of a byproduct of how you guys are built with your program, that you're not worrying about distractions? We were talking about a lot on the radio broadcast. I didn't get any indication that you guys were even close to thinking about the previous week. Is that just a byproduct of how this program's built?
Well, that's what we try to accomplish. And if you have a mature group that wants to listen, and I think that our players they want to please, they want to do what they're asked to do, and I think they also see the value in how we're trying to get them to do things. When you have a team that wants to listen and wants to accomplish the goal that week, then you get performances like we've had.
And one thing you do have is a mature group. We'll talk with one of those seniors, Tyler Flink, coming up. Kyle Hansen will in the next segment. But, Coach, let's dive into the game. Offensively, I mean, the word of the day, again, is balanced. You guys are one of the most balanced offenses in the entire country. You're able to do it, 230 rushing, over 250 passing. Talk about your offensive performance and especially how you're able to throw that first punch here.
Well, it was great in terms of production. We still aren't anywhere close to perfect, but we're closer than we were a month and a half ago. The guys they're executing. They're playing really hard. That's just not for defense and special teams. You know, the physical aspect of it and getting after people, that applies to the offense too, and that's what they're doing.
Well, how about on the defensive side of things? The matchup coming in, it was obvious what the headline was. It was Portland State's rushing attack against your rushing defense, and you guys stymied them under 100 yards for a team that averages over 230. Talk about how that played out throughout the course of the game. What stood out to you, especially on the defensive side of the ball?
Yeah, really 3 or 4 weeks in a row it's been that. And for Portland State to beat us, they were going to have to probably surpass their rushing average in that game, and they didn't scratch the surface of that. And keeping them under 100 yards again was a good job by our guys. You know, we're tearing off blocks, we're tackling. They did give us a couple of wrinkles. They gave us a problem as we kind of suspected they would, you know, when you and I had talked about it during the week. But our guys rallied around that and got it shut off, and it was a good effort by our defense.
Well, you knew wrinkles were coming because of the dynamic of this matchup. It was really cool with both head coaches and both their sons being on opposite sides. What was it like both pregame, during, and maybe afterwards, talking with Robbie, Coach Barnum? I know Cooper was involved. Great to see him get involved in the fourth quarter too. But what was the dynamic like now that you can look at it in hindsight?
Well, it was great. I mean, you like both those youngsters grew up in a competitive household, right? And they understand it. So it was great to have that competition and the camaraderie around the game. But the other side of it is those guys are trying to win that game, and they weren't happy about it after the game. I mean, nobody's happy about losing. Bruce and Robbie are competitive guys, and they wanted to win that game badly, and they didn't. So it'll be more fun to talk about it here in a couple weeks.
It will. Bragging rights at Thanksgiving and Christmas for Bobby Houck and Cooper Barnum there in the household. How about depth that you're able to use, Coach? It was really awesome again in the second half, especially with the game transpiring how it was, that you guys were trying to get triple zeros on the clock as quick as possible. But what was it like to utilize the depth and get a lot of players in the game last week?
Well, as you know, I'm a firm believer in trying to play a lot of guys as best you can, and these guys work really hard for their plays, and they put in all the time. And as I say often, the starters, they don't work harder than the guys that are third and fourth team guys. They all work the same. They all give their best, and the ability to get guys in the game and play most of the guys that went on the trip with us was really a fun deal. Final
one for you, Coach. Now you flip the page. The rivalry week is here. 51 weeks of the year revolve around this one when it comes to Grizzly football. And your thoughts just on the matchup, turning the page, and getting your team ready to go for Saturday?
Well, seasons go so fast. Yeah. It seems like yesterday we were in August, and now we're at week 11. We're playing game 11 this week. Is fun in college football. If you have a great rivalry game, it's this week, and so we'll be excited for the game. We'll dig into it and hopefully get a good plan together and try to be hopefully we can be somewhat healthy for the game, and it should be a heck of a game.
Winner will be the outright Big Sky Conference champion. First time that both are in the top 5 when they square off on Saturday. We'll talk with Tyler Flink on the other side of the break here on the Grizzly Insider.
Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
Welcome back to the Grizzly Insider, and I'm excited to be joined by senior linebacker Tyler Flink. Tyler, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Glad to have you here. Great to talk to you. You guys coming off another win. 6 straight for you guys. Just walk me through your perspective, that win over Portland State as you guys got the job done the week before the brawl.
Yeah, I think it was a huge game for us. They're a good football team. They're coached well. We needed to go get it done, and that's what we did. So it was a big week, and we got it done. Now we can focus on the big one.
The game is kind of interesting, a little similar to Sac, where Portland State had a little bit of momentum on offense to start, and then you guys kind of completely shut it down the rest of the way. I guess, what were they doing on that first drive, and how were you guys able to adjust?
Yeah, I think everyone watches film. Obviously, everyone has a game plan. It's a little bit scripted, but they came out firing at us, and they had some success early on. We buckled down and shut it off later.
Their running game is unbelievable in the Big Sky Conference. It's been very strong throughout the year. You guys snuffed that out pretty quick, made life difficult in both facets of the game. Just what was it like, I guess, kind of putting on a performance like that? Again, as you know, this has been, I think, 3 or 4 weeks in a row where the defense has just been all over it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think our coaches just give us a great game plan, and we trust it super well, and then our D-line does an incredible job of getting in the backfield, taking up blocks, and that's why we are able to do what we do as backers and safeties. Get all the credit, but it's all due to the big men up front.
You guys, your adjustments are fun to watch in real time too. The way you guys kind of maybe don't quit and don't falter. So they score that home run touchdown, and you guys kind of respond by shutting them down again. You get the 3 sacks in the 4th quarter. Just what were you guys doing there to maybe kind of buckle down? And there's the slip up, then it seems like you guys were right back on track.
I think at the 4th quarter is a huge emphasis for our team. Finished strong in the 4th quarter, and obviously that pissed us off a little bit when they got that long play on us. So we just buckled down and finished it off like we wanted to.
The Montana defense, you guys, that's kind of your bread and butter the last few years. But ever since it feels like that second half against UC Davis, it feels like you guys have just been on a roll, just kind of locked in and focused. What have you noticed ever since that turnaround?
I just think that after the NAU game, we all kind of got back to the basics and trusted each other and did our 1/11th, didn't try to do too much, and we kind of clicked as a team and just do our job every game, and it's been good for us.
It's such a long season, right? And after the NAU game, there was a lot of soul searching and things going on. But for you, what's it been like being a part of this turnaround? Like just being in that locker room, watching you guys kind of get things back on track and just rolling again?
It's been awesome. I've been here for 6 years now. It's just such a selfless team. It's not about any individual. It's just about the team aspect of it. It's been an awesome year, great senior year. It's been a great turnaround, and couldn't have had more fun.
Right.
So it's been awesome. We have more work to do, though.
Absolutely, yeah. And we'll talk about that work coming up right now. It's the big one, right? The Brawl, Absolutely. The Wild. You're a Montana guy. It's the game everybody talks about all That's year right. long. The neighbors, things like that. Just when you think about this game, what kind of stands out? For a guy from Missoula, who I'm sure you watched this game kind of from the very beginning.
Oh, growing up, maroon and silver all the way. I've watched every home game, played in all the games, obviously, for the past 4 years, and it's been awesome. It's the biggest game for Montana. It's the one that everyone in Montana watches and tunes in for, and it's a big game. It's awesome.
For you too, Tyler, what was it like the first time playing in this game? Because you get to watch it and you get to be a fan, but when you're a part of it, it's just such a different experience. What's it been like being involved in it?
It's been awesome. I've learned over the years you can't let emotions play too much into it. It's at the end of the day, it's just another football team. It's obviously a big game, but it's just another football team. You can't let your emotions get in the way of your game plan and all that stuff. But it's been awesome. It's a great game to play in. It's awesome. The atmosphere, the fans, everything make it special.
For you, growing up in Missoula, any memories stand out? You obviously got to be part of a big win 2 years ago in your hometown for the Grizzlies, but anything kind of stand out watching this game, or anything, I guess, about the general aura of this rivalry?
I think just the overall atmospheres. I don't think there's any one game in general that stands out to me, but just the overall atmospheres and the amount that the state cares about this game is awesome to grow up and see and then get to be a part of now, and it's just awesome.
Both programs support a lot of Montanans on the team, but a lot of guys from out of state here who chose to go to college here in Montana. So what do you guys kind of maybe talk to them about throughout the year as they are about to experience their first Brawl of the Wild, or guys who know what this game is about who are from out of state? Yeah,
I think everyone has a good grasp of what this game's about. At the end of the day, we all tell ourselves, it is just another football game. We can't let our emotions take control and treat it like anyone else, but there's definitely some more care about this one, and everyone knows that, but we just stick to the game plan and trust our game plan, our coaches, and we'll be good.
Feels like a movie script coming into this week. Both teams in the top 5, the Big Sky Championship on the line. Just how does that sound to you, knowing that there's kind of along the line what's going to be a big game that, it extends past this game too in the playoffs where, like you mentioned, it is one football game and there's a lot more after this as well.
Oh yeah, there's a lot more after this, but this is for bragging rights. This is a big game. We've been chasing the Big Sky title for the last, 5 years now, and we're ready to get it done.
Absolutely. Well, Tyler, thank you so much for your time, and
Absolutely.
Good luck this week.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Coming up, Riley will rejoin me as we look ahead to the Bobcats up next.
Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
And welcome back. It's the week we've all been waiting for, the Brawl of the Wild, the 122nd edition. Before Kyle and I break it down, we ask Coach Houck his thoughts.
Well, it's always a big game. All of our alums at both schools tend to really focus in on it. For us, to a degree, it's got to be one of 11 that we play. But then once we get to it, it's got vital importance. So they have a good team. We have a good team. Should be a good game.
Well, Kyle, it's amazing that these teams have played for so long, over a century, and for the first time, they're both going to be ranked in the top 5, and the winner is going to have an outright Big Sky Conference championship. Hard to believe for a couple of Montanans that have been watching this their whole lives that it's the first time. It's very rare that a first comes into play. It does this year.
Right, and it's crazy how this game just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger every year, right? Because as you mentioned, I remember watching it as a kid, and it was already big. And now here they are, both teams in contention for a national championship, a conference championship. And, the last few years they've met, where one team's been 3 and the other's been in that 7 to 8 range. And then, this year, I can't believe it just takes another step, especially monitoring that Idaho-Weber game on Saturday, knowing that, oh my gosh, if Weber pulls this off, it could be for the outright championship. It's going to be there. And, you just couldn't draw it up any better, really.
It was pretty much like you had to cross off everything across the list. It certainly did for Montana. How about how this season has transpired for both squads? Montana State probably comes in here as the team that the preseason favorite in the Big Sky Conference. They have that game against South Dakota State. Montana, a tough September, at least the end of September. You kind of have a lot of question marks. And now Montana's propelled themselves. The Cats have lost a couple of games, and Montana's the higher rated team. Pretty amazing how both teams' seasons have transpired into now.
Right, and just shows you college football just how long it is and how quickly it can change. Because we keep talking about that Northern Arizona loss, right, for the Grizzlies and how it just completely flipped things around for them. 6 wins since. Hard to believe that that's how it's been. Just the way the team has kind of dialed itself in. And then on the flip side, Montana State, like you mentioned, coming in as the favorites, really going toe-to-toe with the #1 team in the country, and then, tripping up against Idaho, but getting business done against Eastern Washington. So it just feels like both teams are kind of primed and kind of just as game as ever right now.
Absolutely. Montana, 6-game winning streak, as you mentioned. Last time they won 7 in a row, that was 2011, so something on the line for them. Breaking down this matchup, Kyle, it should be no surprise that these are the top 2 defenses in the Big Sky Conference. You just got done talking with Tyler Flink, one of the stellar linebackers for the Grizzlies, and I think obviously defense travels, and defense has carried the flag for both of these squads. But when you look at the matchup, do you see this being a defensive game? How do you break it down when looking at some of the numbers?
That's a great question, because you go back to the game in Missoula a couple of years ago, right, where it was kind of a defensive battle, whereas the game in Bozeman a year ago had a lot of points and a lot of offense as well. So Montana State's offense is just so good, and they have been all year and for the last couple of years. So that'll be a great test. But on the flip side, Montana's offense is, they might test that Bobcat defense a little bit. I know that defense has been banged up a little bit and had some issues, but the front of the Bobcats is what everybody talks about, and might be the best in the country, and that's going to be a big test. But this game, you never know. It could be 60-40, it could be 7-3. It's just something's going to happen, right?
Intangibles, right? You can throw some stats out the window, even though the stats are going to be fun when talking about these 2 teams. When you talk about maybe the 4 units out there, both offenses, both defense, the one that has probably improved the most has been the Grizzly offense. Yes. I think they're the biggest X factor in this matchup.
I completely agree, right? And see how they're going to test that Bobcat defense as they struggled against Idaho, right? And then you saw the Grizzlies against teams like Sac State, Davis, Idaho have some success with their offense, start fast, as they've been doing a lot lately, and especially with that run game. So we're just going to see how it is here, especially with that crowd behind them.
And we will see a lot on the line. The winner is the outright Big Sky Conference champion. The winner also, more than likely, will get home field all the way throughout the course of the playoffs. A lot on the line. Cannot wait for Saturday, and we'll wrap up the show next.
Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
Welcome back to the Grizz Insider, and Riley, you touched on it right before the break. This game it means so much to Montanans across the state. It's huge for bragging rights, it's huge for a conference championship, but even more so, that home field advantage throughout the postseason cannot be understated. This is massive.
It's massive for the state of Montana to make their December plans. They want to know who's going to be at home and whatnot, and the winner of this game, especially for Montana, if they're 10-1, they will be #2, and they'll be at home throughout the playoffs. The path to Frisco will go through Missoula, which is pretty surreal to think about. And Montana only losing 2 home games in the last 5 years, only 35 times in 37 years of the stadium. I think they feel good about their chances against anyone when they walk inside Washington Grizzly Stadium.
Man, we're fired up. We're ready. It's going to be awesome. It's Montana Super Bowl coming up this Saturday. Brawl of the Wild 122nd version. Noon kickoff here on the Montana Television Network, and we'll see you all there. Have a great week.